What's up everyone, Alex here, and welcome to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to talk about how I know that I have two genders, and that even though I use a dozen or more labels for myself, how do I know if I'm just experiencing like a third, a fourth, a fifth gender rather than just two of them? How do I know it's only just two genders? There's a feeling of assuredness. It's two distinct gendered feelings, male and aporogender, and there is no apathy, hesitation, ambiguity, anything like that there. It doesn't feel like anything hazy or gray or intangible. It feels like two distinct, strongly felt genders. And I experience malehood and neutrality kind of hand in hand. They're kind of ever present. They're both there as two distinct feelings, even if there's almost said hesitation, even if there's overlap in the middle, even though I experience both at the same time or one more than the other sometimes, there is still like a concrete feeling of gender. And even though I have all these other labels that I use, I see myself exclusively being a man and aporogender. Those are my two genders. But I don't see myself being just a demi-boy, being just some kind of maverick gender, just non-binary, or something like that. Like, I can't see myself being exclusively one of my other labels, or seeing one of my other labels as like a third gender or a fourth gender. The other labels that I use, the multiple labels that I use in general, are ways that I can help further describe my experience, because there isn't just a singular label that fits for me. I don't really want to find a singular specific label that encompasses every single thing. I've been looking for that, and then I realized that it's fine if I'm using multiple labels to describe the same singular experience. I'm bigender, and then I use a dozen or so labels to describe what bigender means to me. I have my two genders, and then all the labels that I use to describe those two genders. So in my mind, I know how to differentiate between the descriptive many labels that I use and the actual genders that I am. And of course, I differentiate between gender and gender quality. Gender qualities being the intrinsic aspect of gender. So it's like my aporogender experience is neutral in nature. The gender quality is neutral. And I can differentiate neutrality, maverinity, aporinity, autonomy, these different qualities, qualifiers of my genders kind of exist as like, this is like kind of where my genders fall. So I know for sure they are not just genders on their own, that they just kind of exist to show not alignment, but the context of my genders, where they lie in the giant galaxy of genders that exist, at least the giant galaxy of malehood and aporogender. Like, sure, there's aporogender. What kind of aporogender? That's where I start using specific terminology like neutrality. And neutrality on its own is not a gender for me. So if I'm saying I'm a man, aporogender, and I'm neutral, that's not three genders. I know for sure that's two genders, and neutral is just the way that I describe my aporogender experience, because aporogender is pretty broad. It's more specific than non-binary, but it's still a pretty broad term. So that's how I further kind of pinpoint my genders. I use a number of labels to describe myself. I use non-binary, abinary, neutral, besides the two genders. Like, I use man and aporogender to, those are the names of my two genders, but then there are specific other genders that I use. Sometimes neutral male, that's just the intersection of neutrality and malehood. And sometimes things like non-binary, which is the quality of non-binary. These labels that I use are just ways that I describe having two genders. It's not enough to just say, I am non-binary. It's true, but I am not non-binary in the monogender sense. It is not just my one gender non-binary, and that's the end of the story. Non-binary is such a huge umbrella term for so many different genders that it's not enough to just say I'm non-binary. So, sometimes in conversations I'll say I'm non-binary, but for me, my non-binary identity comes from having two genders. I understand the distinction of having the two genders rather than maybe I am a poragender and a man and demi-boy and some kind of Maverin gender all at once. Maybe I have four genders. That is not the case here. So it's really just, of all the labels, just at its core, there are two genders that just never change. They're always present. And I guess that is, how I know that I am bigender. That probably would help a couple of other people who are questioning, how do I know I'm bigender and not just gender fluid or trigender or pangender or any of these other types of multigender experiences? How do I know that it's two distinct genders? And for me, this is my personal experience, is, using all these labels, but knowing for sure that there are two genders there. That was kind of a quick video. I want to pull back and start talking more about my own personal experiences with gender, especially being bigender, talking about different multi-gender experiences, because I feel like that would help a lot of people. I feel like it helps to have something to relate to. It really does. This is why I make these videos, is because I want to talk about my own experience, and then other people can find that and relate to it. And it might inspire them to also talk about their own experiences, be more open about their non-binary identity, and kind of inspiring, kind of starting a trend. What is the word I'm looking for? Sort of starting a circle of influence where I discuss my own gender, and that kind of inspires somebody around me to talk about their own experiences, and then the people around them might be like, oh, I should talk more about my own gender because I can relate, or hey, mine's different and I want to talk about how it compares to yours and how it's different, and just everybody kind of inspiring everybody. Because in this day and age, I think it's really important to talk about our objective experiences with gender, and talk about what it's like to be trans, what it's like to be non-binary, what it's like to have more than one gender. It overpowers the bigotry you see online and the just misinformation about transgender people. So that is always my intent, is being able to put my story out there and, educate someone who does not know anything about transgender people, non-binary people, multigender people, and that can get more and more people to do the same thing. And then now suddenly we have this kind of culture of normalization where it's we're just talking about gender and what our experiences are with gender, because up until recently, that just wasn't heard of. People weren't really going on the internet and talking publicly on larger forums about being trans and non-binary. Obviously, there's been forums where people are talking about gender, and there's really large communities of trans and non-binary folks just, sharing their stories with others, but it's never been on such a large scale before. And I want to see more of that. I want to see more of just YouTubers like me talking about stuff like this. So that's pretty much it. I'm probably going to get lunch and drink some more coffee. It's very cold in my house. And I am signing off for now. See you later.